No, we're going right on, and I'm going to check.
Oh. Get my tripod. The little one.
What city are you in, Scotty? Boca?
Yeah, Boca right now.
When do you exit off of 95? Are you Glades? Are you north or south?
Glades Road is the one we passed, and then we got off on Palmetto.
All right, everybody.
Here we are.
Welcome to the Ask Coach Mike show. We're excited to have you guys on tonight.
That's me. I'm Mike.
Good to have you, Coach. And beside the coach, if you guys haven't noticed, we have an amazing guy. He's a pickleball commentator. He's a social media influencer, and
Yes.
he's a 5-0 pickleball player.
Yes.
And above and beyond that, he's just an amazing human being, and everybody loves him, and just a great guy. The Golden Boy, Scott Golden. Thanks for climbing on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Well, I know Coach Mike loves to ask this question, so let's start with this one.
Yep.
So, how did pickleball find you, and how many years has that been now?
Man, it snuck up on me. I'm coming up on 5 years in my pickleball journey, which sounds crazy to even say because it feels like just yesterday that I started, picking up a pickleball paddle and hitting a ball around.
Mm-hmm.
But it was October of 2016. To set the stage, I was living in Alabama. I'd been there for 20 years, had just come out of a divorce. I was kind of trying to reinvent myself. I was looking at maybe a second career in coaching or teaching. And one night, I actually had a new girlfriend, and I went out to the park with her. Ironically, guys, she kept tennis stuff in her trunk, but she was not athletic at all. She was very uncoordinated. Like, she was one of those people that didn't even like to keep score. So I have no clue why she kept tennis stuff other than she liked a little exercise. So she talked to me. I'll never forget. It was on a Thursday night. She talked me into going out to the public park, and we walked by the two little pickleball courts. But to be honest, I had been by those courts a number of times, guys, and I thought they were mini tennis courts for like the kids, the juniors. So I had literally no clue what I was doing or talking about with that. I was misconstrued big time. So we go out there on the tennis courts. We're hitting around. We're not even keeping score. And we took a little water break. And in the meantime, a gentleman had come out on the courts by himself with a pickleball tutor machine. And it was an older gentleman. He was hitting return after return. And I'll never forget, at the time I didn't know what it was, but he was using a Durafast 40 ball. And I asked him, I was being nosy, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And in true fashion, he got me over there on the court and put a paddle in my hand. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he put a Selkirk in my hand that night. And yeah, I know, Mike, I know, right? Coach Mike's excited. But I just started hitting around. We hit for about 30 minutes, and I fell in love. And I immediately—
Let me tell you what Scott looked like this. Look.
That's exactly right. I was hooked. Hooked. So I played. That was a Thursday night. I played all day Friday. I played all day Saturday, and I played all day Sunday. I was on the court as much as I could possibly be. I remember driving to one court here, then another court down the road, and then another court, and I would play all day long.
Done it.
And I had no idea what I was doing, guys. No clue, but it was fun.
So even 5 years ago, you could find competition. You
We
could
had a
find.
small group. Yeah, there was a small group of at that time. I'm sure Jarek Rager was probably a 4.0, and my buddy Ryan Sheffield. I brought him along, and my twin brother Chris, who still does play pickleball, not competitively like I do, but
Hmm. Hmm.
we showed up on a Saturday night that weekend, and we played for a few hours. Actually, I have a live stream of it was either the second or third day, and I was live streaming those games, and you can go back and watch that. We were awful. So
That's awesome. We'll have to get that video on sometime. So Scott, let's switch gears a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Dick's Sporting Goods. It seems like you have a great deal with them. Tell us how that came about,
Dick's
and
Sporting Goods, yeah.
Where it's headed.
man, I could talk for an hour, guys, just on that subject. First of all, I just want to say I'm very blessed, and I've had some tremendous opportunities in the sport of pickleball. I cannot begin to explain to you, how blessed and fortunate I am to be a part of the Monarch team and Dick's Sporting Goods. So for anybody that doesn't know, Monarch is the pickleball brand. But it's owned by Dick's Sporting Goods. So they're a piece of Dick's Sporting Goods, and so they actually write my check. DSG writes my check. Monarch is just the brand that we play with, and I love it. I tell people all the time, I'll never leave Monarch. They'll have to leave me first. So
That's good. That's good.
Too good of a setup.
That's fantastic. So let's switch gears again. Let's talk about Scott Golden, the broadcaster. We
Right.
see you every weekend on YouTube and ESPN3, and when there are tournaments, it seems like you're always there, either playing or commentating.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've been asked many times how I'm able to be in two places at once. I guess people think I'm all over the map.
No, he has a twin. That's why.
I do have a twin. I do have a twin. He's got a wife and a son and a job, so he can't travel like I do. Otherwise, I would put him to work there. But no, you know what, guys, I've always had the type of personality, a lot like Coach Mike, just outgoing, a people person, and I feel like my way of giving back to the sport was always in the way of live streaming, commentating. I put I put hours upon hours upon hours of free time of commentary and live streaming over these last 5 years. And there's always going to be people that say, oh, somebody's better than Scott. Scott doesn't deserve to do this or whatever. But the truth of the matter is I have earned those stripes. I put that time in. And the opportunities that I've gotten from the Professional Pickleball Association, and actually a huge shout out to my good friend, Jan David, or on Facebook, he's known as John Poppy. He was the first to give me an opportunity to live stream on a bigger scale and at the pro level. He believed in me before anybody else did, and I'll always be grateful to him and owe him that debt of gratitude, because he came to me privately before all my accolades with PPA and the ESPN3 stuff or whatever you see now. He was the one that said, hey, I believe in what you do. I think you bring a good product to the market, and I want to put you on the big stage. And he really did help catapult me into the opportunities that I've gotten now. And I don't even know how to explain the ESPN stuff and all that. It's just putting yourself in position. Timing for sure.
Right
and just
place,
putting yourself
right time changes everything.
All right, so I've got to ask this question. Would you rather have a microphone or a paddle in your hand?
Oh, man. You know what? You know what, Jeff? That's the first time anybody's asked me to decipher the difference between those two and then ask me which one I want to do more. The simple answer is I'm 36. I'm still very active, still very athletic and competitive. I'm not ready to put the paddle down, but I will tell you that if it comes to doing a professional job on the mic and I get an opportunity to do that versus play at a tournament, I'll take the microphone all day.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, let me clarify why. My end goal is to grow with this sport, and I is competitive and as good as I feel like I am as a player. I think that my real mark on the sport is going to be in the booth with a microphone and doing
Good.
the big work, you know, that I can impact the sport. So to say that I would play versus take the microphone and be in the booth, I would be foolish to do that, because there's always going to be another tournament. There might not always be an
Mhm.
opportunity to get in that booth and be a professional in that
Mhm.
regard.
The booth is a lot less taxing on your body as well.
Agreed. It's a little more taxing on my
Yeah.
voice, but I've been preparing my whole life for this, so I'm
Good.
ready.
Good.
So you have a big social media presence. Every time I turn something on, I see, you're streaming something. You have a show that you do. You're interviewed in a lot of different places.
Sure.
How did that all start? And did you get some training? You have a social media team. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would love to say I have a whole team of people that help me do everything I do, but the truth is, and Coach Mike knows, he knows me very well. I'm a one man band, and I love to take my passions and put it out there for everybody. And I've never been ashamed or scared of putting myself out there in front of the public eye. I
Hmm.
always will have critiques and criticism and people who don't like what I do, but the overwhelming majority of people have helped catapult or push me further in my career and really helped me grow as a person. And I would be, you know, amiss to let those people, discourage me from doing what I love and what my passions are. And
Hmm.
so, no, I don't have a team. It started with just me and a camera, or me and my phone. And I tell this story a lot, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but I would go to tournaments. I in 2017, my first tournament ever was March of 2017. I went up
Where?
I went up 3 hours north to Nashville, Tennessee, and Don Stanley, who's the head of the referees for the Professional Pickleball Association,
Hmm.
at the time he was just kind of getting into pickleball, and he held a tournament in honor of his son who passed away at I think
Right.
17 or 18 years old. It was called the Logan Stanley Memorial Classic, and I went
Okay.
up there as a 3.5 player. I did well, um, but through that process, when I finished playing, I got beat basically in the bronze medal match. I turned around and I set my phone up. All right, guys, and I streamed and commentated the gold medal match of the people that just beat me. So that's kind of where it started. And I'll tell you what happened. Um, I have no formal training. I've never been trained in any way. I'm a people person. I love to analyze and process information, and then try to translate it and relate it to people that may not
Hmm.
see what I'm seeing. And so
Hmm.
it was natural. It was very natural. I was able to set up a camera, and what was happening was people were sitting to my right and my left,
Hmm.
where you guys as the viewer at home couldn't see that, but they would listen to me commentate their loved ones, their brother, their sister, their nephew,
Right.
their son,
Right.
daughter.
Right. Right.
And I would be just doing it for the love of the game. I was so passionate about it, and I would get these comments at the end. They'd say, "My goodness, what's your name? Like you're really good at that." And I would say,
Hmm.
I don't know what to say. Thank you, because I just do it because I love it. And through that journey, guys, that's really the foundation of the platform that I have now in 2021. It started by me and my love for pickleball, and just the ability to put my pride aside when I got beat, even though it sucked. I
Hmm.
mean, it was
Hmm.
awful to lose and then have to, come back and
Sure. Sure. Sure.
do commentary, but it was a passion and I loved it.
Well, it's interesting when we talked the other day and again today. And that's a great story. I love it. You talked about people that may knock you down or whatever. I posted something on May 27th. This was written 47 years ago. I know you're just a young kid, Scott, so you might not ever heard of this group, but this was a music review, and it says, "I hope the four guys who make up the group, whose names don't matter, are putting money away for the future, the near future, because Kiss won't be around long." You know the band Kiss,
Of
net
course.
worth of $200 million? This was a review 47 years ago.
Oh,
I guess I guess they had just a little bit of success, right?
Yeah, huge.
I'd say I'd say they didn't listen to the people that were hating on them back then.
Correct. And that's
Exactly
all we
right.
have to
So,
do.
Scott, keep doing what you're doing because
Sure.
you do a great job, and regardless of what people say, it doesn't really matter.
No. Hey, if you don't mind, Jeff, I'm going to throw something in here.
Absolutely.
I met Scotty at an indoor tournament. It was the second tournament I had ever gone to.
That's
A
right.
friend invited me. I was in Tennessee. That's how I met Scott. Remember?
I do remember that. Those are fond memories.
Wow.
Yeah, it just triggered because you were talking about Tennessee, and that's where I met you, in that indoor tennis facility.
Yep. Yep. I had no idea who you were, and you had no idea who I was at that
No,
time.
no, none of it mattered.
But
None of
little
it
did we
mattered.
know we'd be on the show tonight together 5 years
But I
later,
want to
4
throw
years
a
later.
plug in for the girl that put that together, Taylor, another very classy lady in pickleball. And I've said this at every show, Scott, and Jeff will be my witness. Pickleball is way more than a sport. It's changed lots of people's lives. It's just
Absolutely.
an accessory to. I mean, think about all the people that you've got to know in the last 5 years. You would have never met those folks.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit younger than you guys, not
A
terribly
lot.
younger, but young enough. And
Nice guy.
I have a different perspective than maybe you guys do, and I wanted to share that perspective. Coming from my background, my dad was military, and I moved around a lot, and so I was always forced to meet new people every 3 years. We moved to a new state, a new school,
Right.
and my family is still very close today. I have 3 brothers, and all 4 of us are very close, and my family is a tight knit family. So I give a lot of credit to my parents for giving me, like, I guess, the foundation to be outgoing and a people person. But pickleball, it introduced me to a whole new group of people that I would never hang out with probably at 50 plus. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's just that I was playing flag football at the time when I found pickleball, and the demographic for that is 16 to about 25. And
Sure.
and you're not going to see 50 plus play in that sport unless they're a freak of nature. But my point being, pickleball opened me up to a whole new world of people with way more intelligence, wealth of knowledge and life, could teach me how to handle my finances better, teach me how to handle myself better. And to give a plug to the general population of pickleball, they've pushed me to be a better human being and a better person. And I've had many conversations off camera, just me and Coach Mike, or me and Jeff Wiley, or just anybody that took an investment in me, didn't ask for $1 from me. They just saw what my passion was, and they saw that I was excited, and they just used their knowledge and wisdom in life to help me further myself in my journey, in my career. And I'm telling you guys, I get chill bumps because I'm so thankful for those people in my life. I just can't
Beautiful.
express that enough.
And you
You're
probably have a
absolutely
lot
right.
of you probably have a lot of people that come up to you at tournaments who you have no idea who they are because they see you, all over Facebook and social media, and appreciate you, and you probably don't even know their name.
I always ask them, and I'm really good with names. So if I don't know them personally, I'll ask them a little bit about who they are and where they live and who they play with. And usually, that the 6 degrees. I think they say you're only 6 degrees from knowing. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know how to say it exactly, but you're only 6. Go ahead, Mike.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. You just never know who you're speaking to. And then you don't realize that in this industry, like a lot of athletic sports industries, you start seeing the same people at all the tournaments.
That's right.
Funny, I'll see Scott. Hey, Scott, I remember I met you 4 months ago when you kicked my butt last time at the tournament. And we just laugh about it. No one's upset.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that's so engaging about the sport, the connecting of the people.
Yes, and I want you guys to tell me if you agree with this. There are lots of circles of people that are good people. There are tons of different avenues that you can meet great people. But what I found with pickleball is that good people come into pickleball, and then they bring their good people into pickleball. So you continually see good people bringing more good people. And it's not that there's it's not that there's not bad apples in anything that we
Of
do.
course.
There's always going to be people that are negative or hate on you or whatever. But what I found is that when you surround yourself with good people, those people know other good people because they also surround themselves with good people.
Correct.
And so when I found pickleball, I found a whole new world of people that encouraged me, pushed me forward, were not jealous in any way I think the big thing is that when somebody feels threatened and they're not in a place where they're confident and comfortable in their own skin, they want to tear you down. And the overwhelming majority of people in pickleball are good, solid, wholesome people who are excited about somebody's
Encouraging.
success.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And they're not going to discourage you because they've had their own successes in life.
Correct. Correct.
That's fantastic. And the beauty of it is that you see people that, are in their 80s and maybe have been playing this game for a number of years and never want to play in a tournament. And then you have, the tennis players, and you just have a broad spectrum of people that are playing and love the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's brought so many people together, and we've also found love. People have found love in pickleball, and that's a cliche thing, like, oh, how do you find love?
True.
I won't even touch on that, but like I
It's
know
okay.
several couples who have gotten married from meeting at playing pickleball. One
Mm-hmm.
recently, a young couple, they met each other and they fell in love and got married recently. So it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty amazing stuff.
That's fantastic.
I
All
can
right.
name, Scotty, 4 people that I didn't even know 4 years ago. They were sad, they were depressed, drinking, eating, TV 12 hours a day. Turn them on the pickleball. They're moving, they're losing weight, they're
Yep,
excited. Guess what?
absolutely.
They met a girl at the pickleball courts. So it changed their life too. And those are the best stories. And there's
They really are.
hundreds of them. And for me, Scotty, my target market is 55 to 75-year-old folks for the most part. And that still is the majority of a lot of the tournaments. Would you agree? The middle
Oh,
class of the
for
players,
sure.
not the open players, not the 5-0s, but in that middle is still making the majority of the tournaments. And those are the people that are going to continue to make it grow. But as well as I do, in the last 5 years, the whole dynamics of the industry has changed, where there was a lot less open pro players and a lot less younger kids coming into the sport. All that's changed dramatically. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And one of the things I've found through live streaming over the last 5 years is that I get caught up because I'm also a 5.0 player and sometimes play pro. Um, I get caught up in streaming the high level players that I know personally, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what we feel like people want to see. But I'll be honest. The times that I've streamed a 3.0 or 3.5 bronze or gold medal match, I've
Watch
gotten
more
more
viewers.
views on those
That's good.
than I did with the pros. And I'll tell you the reason that I believe that is. It's because we already see a lot of the pros all the time. We see them at the tournaments, we see them live, we see them on all
Mm-hmm.
the live streaming on the pro level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's rare that you get to see, if you're sitting at home on the couch, a 3.0 or 3.5 gold medal match. And I've gotten overwhelming responses, and people message me after I do it and say, gosh, we would love to see more of that. We would love to see you commentate that level so we can understand what we're watching and get to see
Mm-hmm.
that level that we play at as well.
Mm-hmm. There's people watching this show right now, Scott. They don't know what an open pro is. They don't know the difference between a 5-0 or an open pro. They don't
That's
know the
right.
difference between, there's so much that they're still learning. And we say things on the show. We have to be a little bit more aware of what we're talking about for a lot of the people that are listening for the first time. And they don't even know what side out means. And so we go slow. For older folks like me, we have to go even slower.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's also one thing that's helped me in teaching is the commentary that I do,
Mm-hmm.
because I have to talk as oftentimes they want us to talk as if we're talking to brand new people that don't know
Right.
the kitchen. If you use the word kitchen with a brand new person, they have no idea what you're talking about.
No,
So we
no.
take those things for granted. But the truth is, if you're teaching someone brand new, you have to, for lack of a better term, dumb things down a little bit initially until they can grasp a hold of it, and
Sure,
then you
sure, sure,
can
sure,
take them to the next step.
sure. I know Jeff has additional questions. I'm assuming that I distracted you a little bit. So Jeff.
Oh, no, you're fine. Well, Coach Mike talked a little bit about his demographic, 55 to 75. What would you say to somebody that, wants to kind of stay fit longer? Obviously, you're younger than a lot of his target market, but, for yourself, what if you were playing with somebody that maybe was brand new, what would you suggest to them for getting ready and staying healthy? Because, unfortunately, you see a lot of people that have some nagging injuries, whether it's tennis elbow or knees or, hips or any number of things.
Well, I don't think it's any secret that as our bodies get older, our bodies break down a little easier. And I've met some incredible people who I never would believe that they're over 60 years old or over 50 years old because they're so active and in great shape, like Coach Mike, for example. But if I was talking to somebody brand new, if they stepped on the court with me, and by the way, I am no gym rat or anything myself, or I'm not a personal trainer, but one of the things that I would emphasize is to warm up and stretch really well. If you're over the age of 50, I don't think it's smart to just jump on the court and just start running around hitting pickleballs, because one of the things about injuries is once you injure something, it's so much harder to get back healthy. So you end up being addicted to the sport and you've got these nagging injuries. So you never want to take time off. You never want to heal properly. And so I would say, first things first, start stretching before, after, even during, and get a good solid 15 to 20 minute warm up where you're getting your blood flowing, getting your muscles loosened up. And I think that's extremely important. And I don't think enough people in pickleball do that.
If I could throw something in, I want to tell you that personal coaches, personal trainers, after the exercise, after the routine, after the play, after the matches, is actually the very best time to do your stretching. You're loose, muscles are warmer, heart's been pumping blood throughout your body. That's the very best time to do all your stretching. If I knew 1,000 people, 2 people stretch after they play. It's something I'd really emphasize. And heavy drinking, right, Scotty? Heavy drinking, not alcohol, but water.
Water.
Yes.
Or some people might want to drink some alcohol after. Who knows? But definitely water.
Where I live in an older, more mature community, I should say, there are people that start their morning with something to get them loose physically and mentally, and they're not tense. And I can't tell them, you're not supposed to be drinking. You're at the courts. It's 9 o'clock. But he'll have his little thing, whatever it is. And you know what? He's more relaxed. And his body and his brain is more relaxed. And you just have to find what fits best for you. Would that be fair to say, Jeff?
I think so. You're absolutely right. I hear about what it takes to loosen people up. Sometimes it's something that I probably wouldn't do, but doesn't mean that, other people need that.
That's true, though. Who are we to judge anybody else, right?
On that subject, I have a really funny story, a real quick story.
Good.
3-4 years ago, I won't name who it is, but 3-4 years ago, I signed up for a tournament with somebody, and this individual has anxiety, nerves get the best of this person, and they know that, and they're open about it. They shared with me that they get very nervous, especially, not that I'm any big deal, but at that time, I was a 4-5, and she was playing up. Okay, so she was already playing above her level, and so anyway, this person, she said, "Hey, I just got to tell you, I'm going to take a couple shots of Fireball." I think it was Fireball, to loosen up. And I said, "Hey, listen, you do what you got to do. It's fine." Well, apparently she didn't eat anything before she took a couple shots of Fireball, and she may have taken maybe more than 2, because she came over 20 minutes before we were scheduled to kick off and said, I'm feeling a little too relaxed, a little too good." So I gave her a couple bottles of water. I said, "Hey, go sit down over there. Just drink these water bottles and relax." And we ended up having a good time. We played. She actually played pretty well, and we had a great time. But I thought that was a funny story because she had maybe a couple too many.
Oh, yeah. We all have stories to tell, don't we, Jim?
That's a great story. Yeah. All right, let's wrap this thing up for you, Scott. So as you look at the future of pickleball, obviously, I see tremendous growth on the horizon, just so many areas. We think everybody's involved. And what do they say, 4 million people in the U.S.?
I think that number is growing, but yeah, I think that's the last number.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you see it? Do you see it as an Olympic sport? You know, do you see the groups, you know, APP, PPA getting bigger, sponsors getting bigger? You know, what is your crystal ball for the future of this sport?
Well, I would first like to say that I definitely don't have a crystal ball, and I definitely don't know how to predict the future. However, I knew 5 years ago, just like you guys, when you got in, that there was something very special about this sport. And so I felt the buzz. It was, you could say that 5 years ago, it was a rumbling below the surface, and it was getting ready to hit critical mass at that time, 5 years ago. Since that time, we have seen a huge explosion all over the world with pickleball. It's being televised now. It's been on ESPN3, CBS Sports. Ben Johns just recently came out publicly and said that he's making $250,000 a year as a full-time college student at Maryland, having the time of his freaking life at 22 years old. So the sport is growing at an exponential rate that we can't keep up. And Mike, Jeff, where do you live?
I'm in Naples.
So Jeff's in Naples. That's right. He moved from Naples to Naples. I remember that now.
Yeah.
But Coach Mike's in Florida now. Jeff's in Florida on the West Coast, and I'm on the East Coast with Mike. Even in Florida, we can't keep up with the demand. The courts are full every day of the week. So I say all that to say I think that we're poised and composed to see some insane growth. I think it's going to become national television on, you're going to be able to watch it on ESPN2 or ESPN1 at some point. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I do believe it will. I am 100% confident that at some point in the future, we'll have it as an Olympic sport. Who knows the timeline, because it takes a long time to do that. But we have people like Daniel Moore, Seymour Rifkin.
More Daniel. Daniel's in the Far East.
He lives in Japan 10 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lives in Japan 10 months out of the year and speaks fluent Japanese and is just instrumental in growing the sport at an international level. So I know and I'm confident it will be a sport that is seen in the Olympics, but I can't tell you exactly when, right?
Well, you would think if cornhole is on ESPN, I've seen it there a few times, that pickleball should be on there, and I'm sure there'd be a larger audience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I want to squash this fallacy right here, right now, especially over the last 12 months. People that I see online or people in person that tell me, well, this sport will never be a TV sport because it's too boring, it's too slow, it doesn't make people want to tune in and watch. I call BS, because if you've watched any of the pro level lately, the game is speeding up. I don't know how y'all feel, but the most fun that I have is watching the women's doubles pro division. Those women bring it. And the mother-daughters, the Waters, Annalie and Lee Waters, they're evolving and changing and pushing the limits of the sport. And I think what it's done is people, when they came into the sport, guys, said, that's not how you play the game. I heard this out of people's mouth. Yeah, they're good. They can rip the ball in pickleball. Yeah, that's fine. But they will never win on a big stage. And then in 2019, at the U.S. Nationals on the biggest stage, they took down the champs at Nationals and they became champions. And so now nobody can any longer can say that you can't win at that elite level by ripping the ball. And I think that they've pushed other pros to evolve their game and not just dink and drop and stay patient. You have to have every dimension of
a combination of them both. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I'm passionate about that. Y'all see me get fired up. I just think that people are that's an ignorant statement to say that our sport can't be on national television when you can watch cornhole and bowling and I don't want to go into saying anything about GOLF because there's a ton of people that love that sport.
You'll get in big trouble with that one.
I'm not even going down that path. But if those sports can make it on TV, all it's going to take is continuing to do our part. And guys, I'm speaking to you guys, I'm speaking to myself, and I'm speaking to everybody that sees this interview.
Right.
Do your part to grow the sport at a grassroots level. Everything else will take care of itself, okay? And there's going to be things out of our control. But if we continue to push like we are, and show the world how awesome this sport is and how amazing it is, I guarantee you we will see it on TV one day, without a doubt.
Well, we're seeing it now, but you're talking about on a much larger level.
I'm talking about where ESPN pays for the program, for the
Right.
commercials, and splits revenue cost with somebody. I don't know who it'll
Right.
be, but with
So
somebody.
we're pointing towards more people that are sponsors that can afford, like a Nike. Nike's on board now. We know Nike's working with someone.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and look, I guarantee you it's just a matter of time, but we need the views. The reason I'm so passionate about this and speaking so passionately is because when I say everybody needs to do their part, I don't care if you're watching an APP tournament, a PPA tournament, or an independent tournament. You need to share that live stream with your local Facebook pages and all that, so that new people
Can
can
find it
start
and
to
see it.
find the sport and start to watch it and play it. Because
Right.
right now, the big knock on pickleball is that the only people that watch pickleball are pickleball players themselves. And I think that's a fallacy as well. I think people, if they're like me, or they're like Mike, or they're like Jeff, and they like sports in general, and they're fascinated by seeing new stuff, if I'm flipping through ESPN2 or I'm flipping through CBS Sports and I come across something called pickleball and I've never heard of it, I'm going to stop and watch it. And I'm going to listen and go, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to Google it and I'm going to find out where I can play locally. That's the
right.
facts.
And we give that information out often, Scott, for people that are just tuning in or they're new to the sport and they're not sure where to find it locally by them. And we share all that information with everyone. And there, any three of us on the screen, if you know Jeff or myself or Scotty, you can reach out to any one of us at any point in time and we'll connect you with the people in your area. And that's anywhere across the United States, because we're a family. We're just one big family of people that want to continue to have fun, enjoy our life, stay healthy. And there's nothing wrong with winning a gold medal every once in a while. It doesn't hurt.
Definitely feels good for the ego. I'll say that. Actually, I got another quick side story because you guys
Sure.
it makes me think of these stories.
Go ahead.
Megan Hall started playing about 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago. And when I met her randomly on the Pickleball Partners needing a list, she was on there and she ranked herself as 5-0. So I reached out to her and said, hey, do you want to play in this East Naples Winter Classic? This was January of 2020. She said, sure. She had no idea who I was, which is funny. To me, it was funny. And she didn't care who I was, honestly. And so we played. We did well. And shortly after that, we played a couple 5-0 tournaments right out of the gate. She pushes me in ways, I'm telling you, like she stretched me to be a better player, better disciplined player, and stretched me physically and mentally to be better. So the reason I'm saying this is for a reason. She wanted to quickly test herself at the pro level. And so me being the guy that I am, I'm like, yeah, but you're not really ready yet. Like, come on, let's play a couple more 5-0. She's like, no, let's play pro. So if I play with Megan, you will not see us in a 5-0 bracket unless there is no pro. But if there's a pro bracket, we will be in that bracket. And we were getting our butts whipped for several tournaments in a row, like flying out to California. Yeah, like flying out to California and all over the place, right, to play. And we were going 2-0, playing Irina Tereshchenko and Callan Dawson and all these people. And I got a chance to play in a tournament without her. She couldn't make it to one, and I played 5-0, and I won a gold. And she was like barely even said congrats because she knew I shouldn't be playing 5-0. She's like, you need to be continuing to stretch yourself. But I got to tell you guys, after getting my butt whipped for that long in a row, you go 2-0 and it's discouraging. It does feel good to get that gold in 5-0 and just gives you a little confidence, gets you back on track. And so there's a point to that. I just want people to understand, push yourself, but don't feel like you have to always go above and beyond.
Mike, you having trouble hearing Scott?
No, I hear him perfectly.
Okay.
Must be you, Jeff.
You don't have to go above and beyond, you were saying.
Well, it's just you should always push your limits and push yourself, but every once in a while, test yourself against people who are your level, and you'll see where you match up. And if you do well, you'll know that you need to continue pushing, right? But if you go into 5-0 and get beat, or whatever level it is, then I would say you need to reevaluate.
Sure, that's reasonable. And everyone that's listening, I know Scott's talking about things really quickly. there's a significant difference between a 5-0 player and a pro player. There's a lot of things that a pro player does subconsciously that a 5-0 player either is learning or hasn't got there yet, and they're doing it more consistently.
Right.
I just wanted to throw that out there. So people that are trying to become a 4-5 into a 5-0 or a 5-0 to a pro, there's a big step. There's a significant difference. That's all.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Scott, this has been amazing. We appreciate your
Fantastic.
time. You're just an amazing guy. So where will we see you next on the tournament tours?
So funny enough, my next tournament is June 12th and 13th. It's going to be in my hometown where I found pickleball 5 years ago at the National Indoor Tournament at the Hoover Met. It's at the
Wow.
Finley Center. And there's going to be a bunch of people there. It's a qualifier. And actually, we've kind of kept it under wraps because we didn't want too many people to sign up, but it's going to pay out really well. First place for men's doubles and women's doubles is $2,100 for first place. And then it's $1,800 for second. And I think maybe $1,050 for third place. And maybe even a fourth place, maybe $500 for fourth place. And then that repeats itself in the mixed doubles and the women's.
So
Wow,
tell people,
that's
Scotty, who are the tournament directors? Who's running the tournament?
Yeah, so it's the USAPA, the governing body, and a big shout out to Karen Parrish, who is the director of
I know Karen.
pickleball, director of tournament operations for the USAPA. She took on that role a couple years ago and has done a phenomenal job. So she'll be there. She's one of the tournament directors. Of course, you've got pickleball tournaments with Melissa McCurley, Kelly Gent, and that whole crew. And a couple local people, I'm sure, like Jarek Rager, Ryan Sheffield, Greg. There's a guy named Greg that's local that not a lot of people probably know when I say the word Greg. He's a really big influence in that tournament as well. But also, I got runner up to Frank Anthony Davis last year in men's doubles. We were up. I don't even want to talk about it. We were up 9-2 in the third game.
I don't want to even talk about it.
Oh, brutal. He still brings it up to me every time I see him. But we were up like 8-2 or 9-2, and they came all the way back and beat us in the gold. It was brutal.
It happens.
Awesome.
I know Jeff, I saw Jeff recently at a tournament. He was so frustrated. He said, Michael, 9.5 out of 10 times we should have beat these guys. And what happens is, and you know this, Scotty, some people still come to a tournament and their whole brain changes. Like, oh my gosh, there's so many people here. Look at all these people watching. And you'll learn as you continue to grow in the sport that you'll find where you're at your comfort level. And you'll say, I'm in my zone. I don't really care about what's happening around me. It's me and this game. And that comes with what? More time in the saddle, right, Jeff? We talked about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jeff's only, I think, 4 years into the game, correct? 2
years.
Excuse me.
Cut that in half. I
Yeah,
love
And
it.
he's got a very deep athletic background, so a lot of it did come easier for him.
Yeah, Jeff, what is your background in sports?
I was just very athletic, really didn't play much tennis. Played racquetball in high school. That was 412 years ago. Basketball, softball, baseball, just, a lot of, I was playing anything, that there was a ball involved or whatever. And just when I got here a little over 2 years ago, I said, okay, do I play golf or pickleball?
Good choice.
It was a no-brainer. I gave the golf clubs away.
No brainer. I would never say anything bad about the sport of golf. I just know pickleball is extremely fun to play. I'll leave it at that.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much. We'll hope to have
Scotty,
you on
appreciate
again.
your time.
Absolutely.
And I have a little
gentlemen.
tagline for Scotty before he goes. When it's golden, it's good.
It's good.
All right, thanks so much. Hang with us
Thanks,
here
Scotty.
for a
Have a
minute.
great
We're gonna
night. We'll
finish-
see you soon.
You got it. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Have a good night, Scott. All right, we're going to finish up with a couple quick questions here for Coach Mike.
Okay.
So if you got a couple minutes, Mike, let's do this. Okay. So if you weren't coaching pickleball, what in the world would you be doing right now?
little bit more. I have a business management degree. I went to college, got my degree, and I grew businesses. I started small, believe it or not, when I was a kid in high school. I had 200 of my own window cleaning accounts by 12th grade. I always built businesses and then sold them. But I always coached. And I'd probably be just building another business to build it up just to sell it. This is way better, way better. I'm very, very, very blessed, very fortunate that I get to do what I'm doing. I probably had about 6 or 7 different companies that I built up, sold, and went on to something else.
That's tremendous. Well, you're such a great ambassador for the game and a wonderful coach.
Thank you.
All right, so this may be a little harder. If you think about your list, like if you had to write down a list of your, closest friends, how many on that list would be involved in pickleball somehow?
If I had to make that list now, today,
Yeah.
very likely, if I said my number was I had 10 friends, probably 8 or 9 of them play pickleball. So it's changed.
Sure.
And if I wasn't playing pickleball, I mean, the other things that I do spend time with, I'm learning golf to be a much better golfer. I do biking. And my kind of biking, Jeff, was you have your cruiser bike, you have a little mugger here with your beer in the front, you'd be just relaxing. I'm getting into, biking 40 to 50 miles and with the bike pants and clipping in. And some people that are watching that are bikers, I didn't understand that. And it's great for me, great for my body, great for endurance. So I'm doing that more often. Believe it or not, I am cooking all the time. I cook all the time because I'm always hungry. My number one thought when I'm making breakfast is, what am I having for lunch? But truth be told, I've been going to cooking classes because I want to be able to be even a better cook.
That's
So
fantastic.
if you're curious, what else do I do? Those are some of the things that I do on the side.
So probably best to stay on the bike, right?
Bike is great. Bike is great.
No, it's probably best to stay on the bike though, right? Didn't you have a little mishap?
It's so funny that that story, but very few people do. I wasn't even really biking. I was just on one pedal, and I took my foot off because the mailman was closed. I handed him the mail, and when I turned my bike to start biking again, my foot slipped, and the spikes from the gear sprocket went through my calf. And it was pretty bad. It looked like a shark bite. So I told everybody it was a shark bite. It was nice manly scar, Jeff. But funny that you brought that story up. Yes. And when I told real bikers, they looked at me and said, "That's all you did? You got a cut in your leg?" "Oh, I broke my tibia, my fibia, my collarbone." They've had real biking accidents. If you've ever watched professional biking, you can see what can happen. And they're moving at a pace. Maybe I'll go at best 25 miles an hour. They're doing 30 and 40 miles an hour for a long period of time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun.
So let's switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
What for you is important in a paddle? If you're picking out a paddle, what to you is important? I know obviously it's going to be different for everybody, but
sure. Again, everyone's going to have a different answer because of what they like. And some people, they tell me, like just today, I was just at the courts here where I live, and they go, "Mike, I want a midweight." Okay, you can have any kind of paddle you want. Why do you want a midweight? I don't know. I just think I want a midweight. And that's really where it starts. People are thinking about why they think they need something. And it's usually, well, the guy told me earlier today that I'll hit the ball harder if I have a midweight paddle as opposed to a lightweight. And then some people say, no, I want to be able to move my hands quicker around the net with a lightweight paddle. Great. If you're interested in being a ripper and a banger and you want a heavier paddle to do that, you might want to consider learning where you're making contact with the ball. Are you hitting it at the right place at the right time? Are you using your body properly? Are you putting your weight into the ball? There's so much more involved with the power that people think they're going to get just because of the weight of the paddle. It's my opinion, not the deciding factor for a paddle. I like length. I want to be able to as much as I can. So for me with Selkirk, I love the Invicta. It's a longer paddle. The way the paddle is built, it allows me to have more finesse at the net, more control with my soft game. I'm not as much of a hard banger, ripper kind of player. I'm sure I can hit the ball as hard as most people, especially at my age. But my goal is to be able to control at the net with finesse and maybe be less predictable. a very good compliment that you'd want for yourself, Jeff? If someone looks at you and says, Jeff, I just didn't know where you were going. I couldn't read you. You're unpredictable. Greatest compliment you could have.
Absolutely. I like that. Great answer. How about if somebody's relatively new to the sport? Is there a paddle that they should look at, a manufacturer, kind of a lower end?
And I get that question often with brand new people. And I tell them, it all depends on what you think your future is going to be with this sport. Why don't you play a few times, start with a lower level paddle, see if you like it, and then you can graduate. And then there's some people, Mike, I'd rather have a better paddle right away that's going to help me get to where I want to go. So there's really no right or wrong answer. It's really depending on the person. Listen, because you're a very competitive person, that you'd probably want to have the best tools that you can have immediately so you can get to where you want to go, wherever that might be. So that answer really is based on the person that's asking the question. And yes, you can go to Walmart, Kmart, you can go to Dick's Sporting Goods, Scotty's Place, and they have an array of paddles. Monarch is just their brand name. Obviously, anybody that coaches with me and they come to the courts and they have a toy paddle with them, something brand new that's like a $15 paddle, and I'll let them use a loaner, they'll say, oh, wow, this is so much better. It's not me. It's not just the paddles are built differently. They are. And most of the paddles nowadays are costing a little bit more. But I have to tell you, the sport itself is extremely inexpensive sport, comparatively speaking to golf or tennis or having to have memberships. The paddles range from $50 to $200, depending on what you like. A pair of sneakers, shorts, t-shirt, and you're going to the clubs and you're playing. There is public pickleball in every major city across the United States.
Excellent.
You can find. Yeah.
I know when I first started, I bought 2 paddles and like 6 balls for $40. But I
Perfect.
think it was like the base Selkirk. It was like a Neo.
Yes, Neo is there. Yes. Yeah.
And that's a good paddle.
Yeah, and when I do clinics, very often if I go to a school or a place where there'll be 15, 20 kids, I have those beginner paddles and I'll bring 20 of them with me and we'll start with that and the kids will love it. And what happens is, for me as a coach, once the kids love it, then the parents are in. Because the kids are busy, they're doing this after school stuff, and it's just great. A lot of businesses, instead of having powwows at a bar or a restaurant, I have them come to a pickleball court. We learn all about team sports, connecting, communication. There's a lot that's with business that can connect on the courts. And that you're learning more about the sport, about being able to become connected with your partner makes the difference for you in that game. Do you agree, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So you learn as you go.
All right, so let's close this out. We're getting in on 50 minutes. So obviously you have Paddle Up Pickleball. You're in Port St. Lucie.
Yes.
And I know you're just in the process of launching some video coaching sessions. So kind of break down how that's going to work. And, if somebody were tuning in from California, even on the rebroadcast, and they wanted to get a coaching session from Coach Mike, how would they go about that?
We would first talk and communicate. I find out more about that person. I like to find out what they're doing, when they've started. And for some people, it's harder to get out to go to that destination or for me to come to them. And we ask them to send in videos. And with that video, then we reconnect and we talk about it step by step. And we go through the whole process of everything to do with the game, whether it's their serve, their return, where are they serving, where are they returning, how are they coming into the transition zone. For most people that are newer, Jeff, just the thought of when am I supposed to come to the kitchen line, knowing what the kitchen line is, there's so much involved. And when there's a video that they can send to me, I can help them tremendously. Right over there over the phone, we can do a Zoom meeting, whatever's convenient for them.
That's fantastic. I know how valuable those videos are.
Sure.
Just even watching yourself play, and then even better to have somebody like you, a expert in the game, to kind of break it down and go through different things and be able to give somebody a laundry
Think to
list.
yourself, any major sport that you've played, that you've watched, what do you think that team does the next day? They all go to the lockers or the office and they watch what? The film. Video. Where did they make the mistakes? Where did they make the right moves? How can we fix that wrong move and make it right the next time? There's always strength and there's always opportunities. When I'm coaching, Jeff, there's no weaknesses in my students. They have strengths and they have opportunities. My students, Jeffrey, they've never lost a game. Either they win or they learn. And it's really a mindset. When you start talking to yourself like that. Oh, we had 8 women today. It was a blast. We had a fun time. They didn't love to dink. And they didn't understand why they didn't love to dink. And when they learned about the benefits of being a really good dinker, and they started telling us, come on, Mike, I love to dink. I can dink all day. You're going to make the mistake, Mike, not me. And that's how they started talking to me. We were having a really good time. And you always talk about their takeaways. And one of their biggest takeaways, we didn't understand the value of being a good, controlled dinker. Just one little thing, one aspect of the game, but a big part of it.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic. So, Coach Mike, thank
Yes,
you so much. This has been
Oh,
an
what a great
amazing
night. Having
evening.
Scotty on.
Wonderful. Do you want to tell everybody about next week, who we're going to have, or do we want to hold it
I
back
kind
a
of
little
not
bit?
want to tell everybody, yeah, because it's going to be a big deal. The next 3 weeks in a row, we're going to have very well-known people in the pickleball field. Very, very well-known. I'm very, very blessed. I get to know them. I've played with them or against them. They've probably spanked me a few times. And like we always know, Jeff, how do you get better? You play people a little bit stronger than you, and you challenging yourself. And on the flip side, I want everyone that's listening, you've now become this better player. Go play with the weaker players. Help them. Be that person that goes out there and show them, here's another way you can play in this game. And that's when you practice your control and your finesse part of your game. Don't feel that these people should be intimidated to come from the beginner's course to the intermediate courts, right? You should invite them. You should bring them in, welcome them. Be the person to walk over to the lower level courts and bring them in and let them know it's okay. It's fun. No one's going to get hurt. I know it's just a wiffle ball, but in closing, I want to tell you, there are some people out there that are a little bit wild. Don't be afraid to get some clear glasses when you wear them when you're playing, right? Wear protective goggles. Accidents happen. We don't want to hear about them. We want to be proactive. And Jeff, I want to thank you. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your idea. So thank you very much, Jeff.
Well, thanks, Coach. Great evening again, and
Yes.
I appreciate your time
Yeah.
and all you do for the sport of pickleball. So we'll
It's
see
going to
you
get
guys
more
again next
exciting.
week.
Every week's going to get more exciting. So tune in. And what am I supposed to tell everybody? Share and
Like the page.
Perfect. Share and like. It'll get a little bit more, we'll have less technical errors. I'm sure we've had them. But as we grow organically, we're going to have lots more fun. And the guests are going to get better.
Absolutely.
Less of me, more of the guests.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jeff.
Coach.
Have a great.
All right, you too. Appreciate
Okay.
you being on.
Be blessed. Thank you, brother. Bye.